Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to today's edition of the Gripe Session podcast. Now, yes, we have definitely been away for a little amount of time, but that's because we've been busy. So, without any further ado, let's get right into it today.
It's Gripe Session time with your host, George Wanaka.
It's about nothing.
Discussing everything from real estate, current events, a little bit of everything, and the annoying little things that just tick you off.
You can't handle the truth.
What? You didn't know?
Here's your host, George Wanaka.
Your ass better call somebody.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for checking out today's edition of the Gripe Session podcast. We definitely appreciate it. Now, as always, I always ask you right in the beginning because we want to get into it today. Make sure you're following us on social medias over here. If you have a question about real estate or anything else, send me an email here, give me a call on here, or quite honestly, send up a smoke signal if you have to get in contact with us. But we definitely appreciate all the support. Again, if you're following us, check us out on YouTube. Also, make sure to give us a rate and review on Apple Podcasts. That's how we make sure more people will check out the Gripe Session and see what we're talking about today, which right now, let's get right into it. So, as a lot of you all know, I am based here in New York, Staten Island to be precise. Now, we're having a lot of issues right now in Staten Island, New York, with something that's a national crisis with the migrants that are coming in. And other states are taking the migrants that are coming into their state through open borders and basically busing them into New York City. Now, what's happening in New York City, mind you, is they are now making their way to Staten Island because the city is running out of room. Now, a lot of the things where they're being placed, as you would know today, while they're being placed in former schools that are zoned for schools, by the way, not to be dormitories, not to be shelters, but they're being retrofitted to be used as shelters for migrants, not anything to that point. Here's the problem with that. If that's what they want to do, when it comes time to rebuilding and zoning changes and everything else that other people want to do on their houses, why is the city exempt from the same rules that you and I have as homeowners, where we have to conform to local zoning ordinances? We can't just take a commercial dwelling and turn it into a residential dwelling, because otherwise we'll be fine. But you're using a crisis to sit back and say, hey, we're the city. We can do anything that we want to do. Ladies and gentlemen, that is fundamentally wrong. Now, our elected officials here in Staten Island have all come out, and pretty much the majority of them, if not all of them, are against them being cited in these different types of environments, including the St. John Villa Academy, where they're being looked at right now, right down the street from where my office is on the Armory, which is also a federal location, Federal Reservist location. That's the next place that they're being looked to be housed. And a lot of them have come out against it all, which is great. That's what we want to hear as constituents. But there's a problem with that. It's great that our elected officials are listening to us. They have to, right? Otherwise, they won't have a job. Let's be real. If they're not listening to us, at the end of the day, they're not going to have a job. But here's the problem. They are under the best cover possible, which is we can yell, we can scream, but we have no authority here whatsoever. And we can file lawsuits that will get knocked down by courts that are appointed. Oh, yes, some of the judges get appointed by the state or the mayor. And we can sit back and say, well, we agree with you, but there's nothing that we can do. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we're entirely wrong. There is something that they and we can do. And here's what it is. Hey, we're just going to take a real quick break from the Gripe Session. We're going to get right back to it, but we want to bring you another word from one of our sponsors here, which is SearchStatenIsland.com. Yes, one of the things that I do every single day is I'm a real estate practitioner. I am a licensed realtor. I am a appraiser. I'm also a mortgage broker. So why do you ask any of those questions? Well, quite frankly, because if you have any questions on real estate in any part of the country, all you have to do is reach out to me. Go to www.searchstatinisland.com or find me on the social media platforms. And there's a very good opportunity that I'll be able to help you regardless of whether or not if you're in New York where I'm home based, or if you're someplace out in, whether it be Utah or Texas or somebody out there, there's a very good chance that I will be able to help you regardless, because I have contacts throughout the country and I would be able to make sure my clients are always taken care of. So make sure you check out www.searchstatinisland.com. And now back to our program. A number of years ago, Staten Island talked about doing something because we were very sick and tired of being sick and tired. We talked about seceding from the city, which basically means is that we would not be part of the city or the 5 boroughs. We would run our own government. We would have control over our own money, police force, etc. And what happened was a lot of people would say, hey, all that means is that our costs are going to go up because we don't have the help from the city. But here's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. Staten Island has 5% of the city's population, contributes 10% of the tax base to the city, and gets 1% of the money. Where is the fairness? We have issues on Staten Island that our elected officials have to yell and scream to try to get anybody to listen. When we started talking about secession years ago, one of the things, and I did it when I ran for city council, I said we need to stop fooling around and make secession a real thing. The local crisis that comes up, which nobody is listening to us on Staten Island, I have news for you. My Staten Islanders, they're not going to listen to us. They have proven it time and time again. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. More people are moving out of Staten Island and out of New York for things that we're talking about right now. And that needs to stop. We need to put secession on the table. And if the legislature doesn't want to pick it up, then we sue to get our freedom. And I know people will watch this or listen to this, and they will come back and say, but George, things are going to be more expensive. So to that, I would say to you, you mean more than they're at right now? Because last I checked, things are still expensive, probably more than they've ever been, and we're still not getting stuff that we should get as far as our taxes go. So all of the issues that we all say that we have, that's why we have representation. So do I say throw the baby out with the bathwater and get the elected officials out? No, because a lot of our elected officials are good people who are trying to do the right thing. The problem is, ladies and gentlemen, they're talking to people that don't want to listen. Now, in the past, we've used secession as a bargaining chip, a lobbying aspect, if you will. I'm saying enough of it. Enough of it. We need to be able to govern ourselves, because I am tired of listening to the bureaucrats in Manhattan and the bureaucrats up in Albany tell Staten Island what it needs and what it must do. It is time to say enough is enough. I'm very curious to hear what you all have to say, especially because Staten Island is probably one of the most giving boroughs of all 5 boroughs. Not to say that the other boroughs aren't as giving, but Staten Island has always taken care of its own. Look at Hurricane Sandy. Look at how many people were out in the street helping their neighbors, helping all of the people that suffered during that superstorm. Staten Island has always taken care of Staten Island. The problem is, these aren't people from Staten Island. And in many cases, from everything and every news outlet I've watched, they're not people coming just from on the other side of the border. There are people going to these countries, to Mexico, to come into the United States. They are basically being shipped in to come through our borders. Don't believe me? Go look. See if I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, do me a favor. let me know in the comments below. Shoot me a message on social media. I would love to hear your arguments in regards to this. I'd love to hear the counterpoints to this because, again, this is a discussion. But secession needs to be back on the table, and not on the table means to be started at the beginning and finished all the way through. That's the only way that Staten Island is ever going to be looked at in any sort of positive life, because we can take care of ourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for checking out today's edition of the Gripe Session. I am a little bit heated today, I got to be honest with you. But as always, if you like what you heard, do me a favor, shoot me a like and make sure you subscribe. Do me a favor, also comment on the Apple Podcast. Give me a 5-star review if you liked everything that you heard. If also, you know what, follow, share us on social media. We're all over the place, so we definitely would appreciate that if you're able to do that for us. Get the message out there. So remember one last thing. Make sure you do something nice for somebody you would normally do, and we'll get you on the next edition of the Gripe Session podcast. Have a great day. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Gripe Session. Please follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.